Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. This is Dr. Blakeney, and I am today at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. I'm actually at a replica of the South Lawn of the White House. We just took the tour and learned about President Reagan's fascinating life. For the first time, I went into a Marine One, which is the president's helicopter, Air Force One, and learned all about his life from growing up in Illinois, moving to Los Angeles, working as an actor, becoming the governor of California from 1961 to 1967, rising to national prominence as the great communicator, and becoming the president of the United States from 1981 to 1989. This museum and library is in Simi Valley, which is about 30 minutes from Los Angeles, depending on traffic. So let's go ahead and look at some of the highlights of the tour of President Reagan's museum and library. All right, so now that we're in the museum, let's talk a little bit about President Reagan. Very charismatic. He was an actor, and we can see he had a very close relationship with his mother. I believe her name is Nell. Her husband's name was Jack, his father, and he was an alcoholic. Lots of problems as a child, but he did find his way in both acting and in sports, where he played football. He was nearsighted, so he didn't do too much, but he did enjoy it. And through high school, he started acting in lots of plays, and that eventually landed him a role after attending Eureka College as a broadcaster, where he broadcasted, and then he went to Los Angeles, did a screen test, and was in a lot of films, although he was never super famous as an actor. He did join the Army, and in the Army, he did a lot of videos for the Army during World War II about coming home or leaving for the Army, although he actually never did leave the United States. Something cool that I saw there was a teleprompter where you could actually read a teleprompt that he did. He was married and got divorced. He, before President Trump, was the only president that had been divorced, and he did meet Nancy Davis, who would become his wife. So they were very much in love. They wrote a lot of love letters. It became a famous book a few years ago. Politically, he was part of the Screen Actors Guild, and he kind of got a bite for the politics, and he became the governor in 1961 and served until 1967 for California. And part of that was due to his prominence. He was liberal and then became more of a conservative throughout his lifetime. Eventually, in 1980, he ran for president along with George Bush Sr., and he won the presidency in 1980 and served through 1988. Although actually, if you're elected in 80, you don't start until January of 81, and he didn't finish until January of 89. Shortly after entering office, he was at a hotel in Washington, D.C. Outside, John Hinckley shot him along with a couple of other people, and it took him a while to recuperate in the hospital, but he eventually was able to recuperate from being shot, I believe, close to his chest, if not in the chest. During this time, and even after it, one of the hallmarks of Reagan's foreign policy was reaching out and working with the USSR, the Soviet Union. He wrote a letter to Brezhnev. Brezhnev, who was the secretary, did not really reciprocate, but eventually with Gorbachev, he was able to have 4 summits in different locations: Geneva, Moscow, Washington, D.C., and one other I can't think of right now. His Oval Office, similar to many other presidents, he had George Washington above the mantle and lots of different sculptures by Remington and others. Let's talk a little bit about his wife, Nancy. Nancy was famous for her elegant style and her Just Say No to Drugs campaign, which, looking back, I believe most historians think was not very successful. One of the great things about going to this museum was the opportunity to go into Air Force One that was used by 7 presidents. President Reagan traveled the most in this, and I believe he requested it for his presidential library before he died. So we got to go through, see the different cabinets. It actually is impressive, but not like super impressive compared to some of the jets you might see celebrities riding around in today. One thing that was really neat was being able to go into Marine One. I'd never had a chance to do that. Marine One is the president's helicopter, and this one, pretty bare bones, but got the president from one place to another very quickly. We also have the president's limousine, which is shown here. Again, not too many frills, but did get the job done. In foreign policy as well, President Reagan is known for ending the Cold War. He famously told Gorbachev to tear down this wall, referring to the Berlin Wall. And so that happened, and right after his presidency, most of the Soviet states fell by 1992 or so. Like all presidents, President Reagan gave out the Presidential Medal of Honor to many people, including Roy Benavidez, who many people believe Rambo was based on. In addition to that, his legacy was somewhat tarnished by issues such as the Iran-Contra affair, although he was so charismatic that many people still to this day see Reagan as probably their favorite president of all time. Reagan spent time at Camp David, which is in Maryland, a quick helicopter ride away, or at his ranch called Rancho de Cielo, the Ranch of the Sky. In the end of his term, it was commonly known that he wasn't doing very well. He might have had some type of degenerative mental capacity, and so in the early 1990s, he announced that he did have Alzheimer's, and he died in 2004 after giving this speech, which was called "The Sunset of My Life." As with all presidents, he was given a state funeral, and he is buried in at the grounds of the Reagan Library and Museum in Simi Valley. Well, anyways, I hope you learned a lot about President Reagan, and if you have any questions, please let me know, and if not, I'll see you in the classroom soon. Take care.